So, what role do children should and do have in discussing their human rights and in related events? So, first, let's talk about the fifth sacred thing. In the fifth sacred thing, we're currently in the invasion of the South to the North. The North decided that their fighting tactic is in a non-violent way, just like Gandhi and Martin Luther King um, used to have. At that beginning, they were all for it, and the children who are allowed to go to the council because everyone, it's a consensus where everyone is allowed an opinion. At first, children were not included in the plan. They didn't think it was good, it was worthwhile, it's gonna be dangerous, people are gonna get killed, and it's not a place for children. However, they changed their minds as because they have a consensus and everyone agree that if the children are um, intelligent enough or just like recent enough to go to council meetings, have an opinion, they're they can like fight in the non-violent way. They do. Um, we can see how like kids are in the rivers trying to protect the dams. How like Rosa comes and protects Bird from getting shot by the general and all that. Children are important, and children are a lot of times forgotten. Um, we can see how Johnson's kids, when their father was shot, came and still said, "There's a place to you on our table if you choose to have it to for you." And it was them talking to '09, and after he did the terrible things he did, that they finally convinced him. Not convinced him, he finally broke because he was killing children, an 8-year old, a 5-year old. It was just sad. So, what's the problem? Children, in many cases, in real life and in literature, are often forgotten, are often seen as not intelligent enough. They're too vulnerable. We have to protect them. And it's right. Children are vulnerable. They have their childhood to live and stuff like that. But when human rights violations come, they have to have an opinion. They have to talk because it's them it's affecting. It's not only the adults, it's them. For example, in the North, let's say the South defeated the North and they had all the children like safe in a house somewhere. When the South defeated the North, then what would happen with them? They would get ripped out of their cultures. They probably would put in barracks. They probably be put in the army. The girls would go to the pens. It's their fight too. It's their future. They have to have a conversation. They have to be a part of it because yeah, while we love Maya, she's gonna die. She's 99. It's the little kids like Rosa who is gonna have to have the consequence and live throughout the future that it was set out for her. So she has to have an opinion. But it's difficult. It's difficult to put children in messy situations like that. Why? Because a 6-year old. We see children in Sierra Leone as child soldiers. That's PTSD. That's their human rights violations. They have to be put in the talks. It's not only adults. Children are suffering all around the world and they're not being considered. For example, close enough to us, the Parkland students, how they're rising, how they're creating their movements. People call them that that they don't know enough, that they're just grieving. And while all of them is true, they know what they want. They're the students, they're the one who are living through it. They have a voice, they have an opinion. And I think they should, and all kids should, when an event like that is happening, should be considering the discussions. Because if not, then all the consequences are gonna be up on them and they have no say. Who is responsible when a human rights violation is committed in a certain society? Well, my answer to that is everyone. Yeah, some people are more responsible than others, but everyone is responsible. It is easy to put the responsibility in the instigator because they're like the scapegoat. They're the one committing the crime or the human rights violations. So it is easy to point them out. For example, let's look at the situation with the angels in the book The Fifth Sacred Thing. Clearly, the responsibility is either of the Stuarts or the millennialists. The Stuarts are creating and breeding the angels, and the millennialists are buying them. They're the most direct individuals that are violating the angels' human rights. However, everyone, as I said before, is responsible. For example, Beth and Sarah were part of their society, who are women, which I know they have less rights than the men. They aren't doing anything about it. They probably know, they know what's happening, but they're not helping them. They're not making any way to stop it. I know it's hard, but what about their lives makes them more worthwhile than the angels? People can also put the responsibility on the North. The North, in the Revolution of 28, divided themselves from the from the South, and left everyone without a care. They were just thinking about themselves. Am I saying they're selfish? Not really. They had their problems, they had to take care of themselves. However, sometimes we have to look further on. For more a nowadays problem, let's look at genocide. Who's to blame for genocide? Yeah, it's easy to blame the one who are killing the people, but everyone's at fault. Let's look at the Rwanda genocide. The Rwanda genocide, in simple explanations, was the Hutus killing the Tutsis. So yeah, the responsibility for that genocide is the Hutus. The Hutus were killing the Tutsis. But if we go back in history, we can shift the responsibility onto the Belgians. The Belgians were the one who created the tension between the Hutus and Tutsis by putting the Tutsis on top and make them the leaders and creating a dislike between both groups. We can put the responsibility to them. We can also put the responsibility on the UN. The UN didn't act. The UN took away the peacekeepers. The UN left, literally. They did anything. They're responsible for the genocide, for it to happen. But that's not the way to think. Everyone's responsible. The UN was responsible. The Belgians are responsible. The Hutus are responsible. Even the Tutsis are responsible because of the way they were treating the Hutus. Me no, because I wasn't born. But humans in general, people all over the world, they are responsible. Elected officials are responsible. Why are they responsible? You may ask me. Indirectly, they're responsible. Many officials, many countries signed the Genocide Convention, which means after they declare something is genocide, they are supposed to act. But what they did, it wasn't on their best interest to go to Rwanda and act, so they didn't do it. If they would have done it, then maybe less lives would have been lost. They're responsible. They're responsible. Many people died because if they would have intervened, many. But normal citizens are responsible too. If their elected officials aren't doing what they think or what you think is the good thing, they're as their civil duty. They have to go out and do protest or send a letter to their Congress or senator. So in general, everybody has a part to play in a human rights violations. Because as Albert Einstein once said, we live in a dangerous world, not because of those who commit the evil, but for those who look on and do nothing about it. So everyone's at fault if you're doing nothing about it. Everyone's responsible. So the question was, who's responsible when human violations are committed? Everyone. Everyone has a piece of the puzzles. Everyone is responsible, maybe indirectly or directly. So the strategies by the North to promote human rights are going fairly well. They're doing their job. They're doing it in a non-cooperation, a non-violent way, where they're sitting on dams trying to be blown. They don't act violently, even when faced with death. They started by first saying, "There's a place on my table if you choose to join us." Then they started by following the killers of their family or their friends and talking about how good they were. Like, my dad was the sole gardener, taste his fruits, and that way you're not attacking them physically, but you're attacking their emotions. You're making them remorseful. You're making them feel human. You're making them feels literally. You're making them feel and not be numb to the situation. To Because it's easy to shot someone you don't know. When it's someone you know, you care about, it's harder because you know how, who people who are gonna miss them, how good he did or she did, and like that. I think, is it working? Well, yes. Some of the soldiers are moving, but not fast enough. I think what they did at the end of the book, that trying to make one of them change like they did with '09, which his name is finally River, make them, if one of them understands, one of them changes and one of them teaches them it's possible, it's the best route to go to. But it's hard. It's hard seeing people die, seeing people loved ones die, and you cannot basically do anything about it. It's not changing fast enough. And I understand Cress. I really do. It's human instinct to beat violence with violence. But what will you have left then? No one. So what they're doing in the North is brave. They're facing their death, they're facing their enemy, and they're saying, no, I'm better than you. I'm not gonna stoop low. and I'm gonna respect you. Like, your human rights count, my human rights count. And by being better emotionally, they're making the change. So the fifth sacred thing, well, it's a book of fiction. It just have many parallels to our current reality. First, we have human trafficking as a big problem, as we can see in the faith sacred thing with the angels, the armies, and all that. We have that many people don't have water, a safe environment, uh, like the monsters or the Johns. Many people, for example, let's say Africa, South Africa is having severely droughts, and the people don't have places to live. Even the states, like a lot of people are homeless and are living in the streets or in shelters. There's another important aspect, that is the difference in economics by people. There's the really rich, and there's the poor people. There's like the 1% we like to talk about in our reality, that's really distinctive in the book. If you're a steward and a millennialist, you have everything. We can see how Sarah had a pool full with water, and because a black woman was found that she came inside, they just drained it. Well, the Johns, they don't even have water to spare to clean the sick. So it's the disparity that exists between the wealthy and the poor, something that is really prominent in today's society, but also in the book. There's also the things about discrimination and racism. We can see how being black as Madrone, and how she feels it for the first time when she goes to the South, that the color of her skin matters. And it's something that sadly in our world, in our society, people feel it. That their race is something to be looked on. That's why we're having all the things of all lives matter, Black Lives Matter, police shooting blacks, and all that sad stuff. Because racism, it's a problem. Discrimination, another thing. Being looked as gay, as lesbian, is something that in today's society, while it's getting better than before, is a delicate subject. For example, in the book, when Madrone is talking to Isis and talking about lovers and stuff like that, he's like, so are you gay? And she's like, I never thought about it. I just like, I'm with whomever I get like attracted to, which is very different. Like, being gay in the South, it's like you get out of your soul, and then you can come to an army, to the pens, to all that. Finally, is the responses exaggerated or understated? I think they're a little bit of both. I think they're exaggerated enough so we can get it as the reader in some of the things, and understated because it's never enough, you know? What I, when, for example, in the North, how they chose to act towards the invasion of the South, it's very noble. And while I like to think our current society is good and would do something like that, would not act violently, would act with non-cooperation, I don't think all of it will. I don't think there's a way for the whole society to come in like a consensus like they did in the North. And would that ever happen? I could hope so. I could hope for that. But right now, with the polarization we're currently having, it's problematic. And that's something I found that was a little bit exaggerated, but still, it's a beautiful piece to cling to believe that one day we could be like them. We can all come to a consensus. We can all care. We can all want the best for each other.